Globally, March 1st is celebrated as Zero Discrimination Day. It is a day set aside by the United Nations to promote diversity and emphasize that regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, or beliefs, everyone counts. Many countries have enacted laws to deal with all forms of discrimination, but in Nigeria, the Disability Bill passed by the National Assembly in June 2016 is yet to get the assent of the executive. So today, on Panorama, we shall be taking a look at persons living with disabilities in line with the commemoration of Zero Discrimination Day. But first, the news making the headlines. I am Ademola Adeoye. We shall be back shortly. Stay with us. In what is called a gas revolution and following the renewed interactive engagement of the federal government with oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta region, a plan to put in place a gas industry park that is valued at about $20 billion to a public-private partnership model is now in process. State House correspondent Jide Onifade completes the story.
Tagged the Gas Revolution Industrial Park, Ogidigbe, and envisaged to be a regional hub for all gas-based industries, the project will cover 2,700 hectares with fertilizer, methanol, petrochemicals, and aluminium plants located in the park that has already been designated as a tax-free zone by the federal government. While meeting with a consortium of international developers and investors of the project, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo stated that the Buhari administration is committed to the development of the Niger Delta, and the importance of the project is stressed is underlined by the presidential attention it is attracting. Under the plan presented by the consortium to the acting president, about $20 billion would be invested to develop the Gas Revolution Industrial Park and generating 250,000 direct and indirect jobs in the process. The acting president said a steering committee chaired by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources is already in place, an indication of government unwavering commitment. Acting President Osinbajo commended the commitment of the group and the readiness to make several other commitments. Leader of the group of investors and developers, Sheikh Mohammed Bayo, stated that the project is important to solving the Niger Delta crisis. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NJ News.
The Senate Committee on Gas has queried the National Petroleum Investment Management Services, NAPIMS, over lack of due process during its presentation of the 2016 budget performance. While the company's account in 2017 shows the deficit balance, the committee believes that the account has some inconsistencies. National Assembly correspondent Dennis Adeguloye reports.
Chairman, Senate Committee on Gas, Basi Albert Akpan, reminded NAPIMS that information available showed a total of $1.8 billion budgetary allocation balance for the company was carried over to 2016, while it received $3.8 billion in 2016, totaling $5.6 billion, out of which it spent $4.2 billion. The sum of $448 million was allocated to NAPIMS for gas infrastructure development projects in 2016, out of which $218 million was spent. The committee put the funding shortfall at $246 million, which NAPIMS should account for.
You have a balance of $200-something million. Is the money there? That's the fiscal cash, everything is supposed to be with CBN.
The committee directed NAPIMS to submit details of shortfalls of funding for the gas infrastructure totaling $225 million. Meanwhile, the House Committee on Power has oversighted some projects, including the 215 megawatts dual-fired power plant in Kaduna and the 10 megawatt wind farm site in Katsina State.
I think we are satisfied with the power generation project.
He also paid a condolence visit to the family of late Representative Bello Sani. Dennis Adegunloye, NTA News.
How to provide solution to Nigeria's most present challenges relating to insecurity and the economy was the focus of a 4-day international conference on the defense, security and development in Nigeria. Eugenia Ekweze reports.
That shows that challenges of insurgency, insecurity and militancy, among others, have hindered development in Nigeria, hence the need to address them. National Security Advisor Major General Babagana Mongono, represented by Alhaji Abba Ibrahim, speaks on the importance of history and war studies in Nigeria's national experience and development.
No development will be achieved without security. An economy must blossom for development to take place. It's important that we hold such conferences and seminars so as to provide a watershed of learning and knowledge.
One of the major challenges bedeviling our elections today is violence. And when there is violence, the environment will not be conducive for citizens to exercise their franchise.
The conference is expected to tackle issues like economic impact of Nigeria's crisis, conflict and security management, global revolution in military affairs, among others. In Kaduna, Eugenia Ekweze, NTN.
The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps has arraigned 2 persons before the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos for belonging to unauthorized security outfit. They were arraigned before Justice Ibrahim Buba. Vera Chumoba has detail.
The 2 accused persons are Dewala Shehu and Lukman Bello. They were arraigned by the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense on a 3-count charge for belonging to an unlawful society operating on the Nigerian territorial waters. The 2 accused persons were said to have in January this year at their base in Otowari, Badagry, conspired to commit a felony by being in an unlawful society and insisting in the management of the society. When the charges were read and plea taken, they pleaded not guilty. The prosecutor, Michael Chinyere, told the court that the accused persons belonged to the Nigerian Naval Merchant, an authorized security outfit which had been prescribed by the law. The offenses were said to have contravened sections 63 and 516 of the Criminal Code. Justice Ibrahim Buba, who granted the accused bail in the sum of 500,000 naira each, with one surety in like sum, however, chided the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense for poorly drafted criminal charge and the prosecution of cases by the court. Justice Buba also ordered that the accused be remanded in prison custody pending the perfection of their bail terms. In Lagos, Vera Chumoba, NTA News.
Officers and men of the Nigerian Army have been assured of government support in the discharge of their duties to the nation. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, who was represented by the Corps Commander Medicals, gave the assurance at the 2016 West African Social Activities WASA, put together by the Nigerian Army Ordnance Corps, Albati Barracks in Lagos. Lee Lenike reports.
It was exciting and fun-filled moments for officers and men of the Nigerian Army, as well as their family and friends, as they converged on Abati Barracks to unwind with lots of entertainment to the bargain. The West African Social Activities is a tradition aimed at promoting social interaction with officers and men as well as their families. This is expected to facilitate comradeship among personnel. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, in his speech delivered by the Corps Commander Medicals, Major General Abimbola Amusu, commended the efforts of the officers towards combating terrorism and other forms of criminality. He urged them to remain focused and support the government in fighting security threats.
Last year was particularly challenging, but to the glory of God, the Nigerian Army was able to surmount these challenges. I implore you all to redouble your efforts with Nigerian Army activities so that our achievements this year will surpass that of the previous year.
I urge you all to continue to discharge your constitutional roles in the most professional and responsive manner with total loyalty to the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces
and some action with civil authority.
The 2016 end-of-year event featured various cultural displays, hip-hop, musical performances, dancing competition, tug-of-war, and presentation of awards to officers who distinguished themselves in their various units. In Lagos, Lynn Lenake, NTA News.
Nigeria and Ghana are collaborating in safeguarding the Gulf of Guinea for effective maritime activities along the West African coast. Towards this end, Nigeria contingent met with their Ghanaian counterpart at Sekonde, Ghana, to streamline operational activities. Abolade Salami has the report.
Over the years, Nigeria and Ghana have enjoyed a mutual security collaboration that has helped guarantee both West African countries' socio-economic prosperity. To further strengthen this relationship and improve on the level of preparedness of both countries in tackling all forms of illegality in the Gulf of Guinea and the sub-region, Nigeria Defense Advisor to Ghana, Colonel Charles Erebolu, said proactive measures towards ensuring continued peace of both countries are of priority.
Security between Nigeria and Ghana is quite cordial. It's peaceful. There have not been any serious or untoward incidents. Ghana and Nigeria are brothers, and it's been fine. It's been well. We've been collaborating in all areas, not just in Navy, Army, Air Force. We've been having good relationship.
The flag officer commanding Western Naval Command in Sekondi, Ghana, Commodore Konto, commended the Nigerian military for its leadership role in maintaining peace in the region. He added that security collaboration enjoyed over the years has helped improve security in Ghana and the West African coast.
That goes very far, and it's also being stepped up to a higher level, cooperating as a joint force, training together, exercising together, and then operating together, as you have seen in Gambia, as it was done in economic operations, and also in Liberia and in Sierra Leone.
From Ghana, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
We told you at the beginning of the program that we are focusing on Zero Discrimination Day, a day set aside by the United Nations to promote diversity and emphasize that regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, or beliefs, everyone counts. And to speak more on that, I have in the studio with me the Executive Director, Center for Citizens with Disabilities, Mr. David Ayale. You are welcome to Panorama.
Thank you so much.
Now, let's look at that, the day set aside by the United Nations for Zero Tolerance for Discrimination Day. How do you feel about, that a day is set aside for such a thing?
In fact, it's a welcome development. I didn't even know such a day exists until recently. I got to know that, such a day is set aside to focus on issues around Zero Discrimination Day. People with disabilities in Nigeria are the most, victim of discriminatory practices from state and non-state actors. They all perpetrate their engagement in such a manner that demonstrate, disdain treatment against citizens with disabilities. And having a day such as this is a day that every Nigerian should talk about all forms of discrimination. Beyond people with disabilities, there are other groups that are also discriminated. But one thing about people with disabilities is that they are double discriminated by reason of their disability, by reason of their either ethnicity, either their beliefs, their either even by gender. Okay. They are discriminated because women with disabilities also suffer multiple discrimination as a result of, their disability. So I'm glad that such a day exists.
Now that, we're going to celebrate the day, what should be the focus? What should be the attention for commemorating the day here in Nigeria? What should be the focus?
I think the focus should be on the most vulnerable, of the vulnerable social group, in specific people with disabilities. Recognizing that since since independent or since the foundation of this country, there is minimal focus on issues around discrimination on the grounds of disability. Recognizing that Section 42 of the Nigerian Constitution criminalizes or prohibits discrimination on different grounds. but silent on the grounds of disability, which made people with disability vulnerable, to abuse, to other harmful, practices. Recognizing also that since 1999, the Nigerian Parliament, in specific, the National Assembly, has been passing bills for prohibition of discrimination on the grounds of disabilities. Regrettably, our political actors, in specific, our former presidents, denies us assent to these, progressive bills. Last year, the National Assembly, on the, 13th of July and June 2016, they also passed bills criminalizing discrimination on the grounds of disability by the House of Rep and by the Senate. Today, we are still hanging, waiting to see them harmonize and dispatch for assent. That is the situation we find ourselves today.
So how, you people are not actually very comfortable. Have you made any representation to the people concerned to look into this issue?
Of course. Last year, in specific, on the 3rd of March, I had a meeting with the Senate President, the Chairman of National Assembly, Senator Bukola Saraki, and I present to him the reason why the National Assembly should take appropriate steps not only to pass the bill, but also encourage the executive to assent to it, or where they deny us assent, they veto them. It's allowed in the Constitution. And I also led him to see the extent and the damage of discrimination on the grounds of disability due to minimal access to social infrastructures, due to, attitudinal behaviors that hinders people with disabilities from participating on equal basis with other members of the society, including the state, their role in promoting and engineering discrimination against people with disabilities. And he told me, David, I didn't understand it. I gave him data. I showed him empirical evidence, which we conducted using support from our partners, Ford Foundation and DFID. And he said he's going to do something about it. And that led to the acceleration in the passage of the bill at the National Assembly. Now, we've been waiting for them to constitute the joint harmonization, conference committee for the harmonization of the bill, the one passed by the Senate and the one passed by the House of Rep, so that it will go for cleansing and transmission to the President. We recognize that the APC government at the National told us that during their campaign in 2015, that they are going to sign the bill into law. Now, the APC is in charge of the Parliament, the APC is in charge of the Executive, and we are waiting for them to do us good by ensuring that this effort or this process is accelerated so that we can be able to find a legal framework that can protect us, just as other citizens in other countries have been protected. So that's the situation we find ourselves. We've lobbied, we've spoken, we've engaged, we've been talking, and we continue to talk. And I'm glad that the NTA has also brought it up today, so as to draw their attention that no one should be left behind in development of this country through practices and actions that promote discrimination.
Okay, what doing this at the federal level? What about at the state level?
Of course, we're engaging the state.
Okay.
Don't forget, here in Lagos State, we have Lagos State Special Purpose Law. That law was not sponsored by the executive. It was sponsored by a civil society group, using our champion at the then majority leader of Lagos State House of Assembly, Honorable Dr. Adeyeye, to sponsor the bill. And graciously, His Excellency, Mr. Batude Fashola, signed it into law. And today, it's being implemented gradually. Beyond that also, we also engage in other states. We have Ondo State. Ondo State passed disability law. Regrettably, they're not implementing. We have Plateau State. Plateau State passed a disability law, and they are, in their own way, they're implementing. We also have Ekiti State that also passed. And we're using this medium to call on other states to take, to copy, what is being done.
Which means that most of the states in the south.
Most of the states in the south are, especially southwest.
Southwest.
Okay. If you go to southeast, there is none. If you go to south, there is none. In the north, we have Bauchi State.
Maybe you're not engaging enough.
We're engaging. Look at what happened in Abia State. Abia State Parliament, during the 5th Assembly, passed a disability bill and sent it to the then governor, Chief T.A. Oji, for assent. And he did not assent. Right Rather, they return it back to the assembly. I personally approached the then speaker.
What was the reason for that?
No reason was given. In fact, even the parliament did not even know that the bill was not assented to. I personally presented it to the speaker, the then speaker of Abuja Assembly, or under this assembly, and I said, look, you passed this bill, the executive refused assent. What can you do to accelerate and ensure that, we got assent? Or better still, veto the governor, because it's a progressive bill. The reason is because no one is immune from acquiring disability, whether you are rich, whether you are poor. We've seen successful rich people who later acquired disability. We've also seen governors who later became disabled. We saw the former governor of Taraba State who later became disabled. We saw also the former governor of Kogi State who was temporarily disabled. We saw the former vice president who was temporarily disabled. We saw a former, we are even seeing a former president of this country who is going on crutches. So when we see such situation, we must not pretend that it does not exist. It is not about those people who are under the street. We are talking about you that is not living with any form of disability. If disability occurs today, what will you do? Is there any legal framework that protects you? If it occurs to any of your child, or to any of your children, or to your friend, what can you do in order to support? And you can only support when there is legal framework that protects you. When there is no legal framework that protects you, you become, vulnerable. You become vulnerable to all forms of, abuses that people with disabilities are suffering today.
So what do you think should be the immediate reaction of government now?
The immediate reaction of the government is to cooperate with the National Assembly to demand acceleration of all the processes. As I said earlier, the House of Reps have passed, the Senate have also passed. The bill is waiting for harmonization. And after this harmonization, it will go for cleaning, which will require the Speaker of the Parliament, the Clerk of the Parliament, that is the National Assembly, to transmit to the President for assent. And we are saying that the Presidency should not delay the process. The Minister for Justice should not delay, any of the processes. All the advisors to the President should not delay any of the... And I'm glad that Professor Osubanjo is our Vice President. He understands Lagos Special Purpose Law. He also is a lawyer. He understands what legal framework is all about. I will strongly believe that he will accelerate and ensure that people with disabilities are protected, from discrimination and harmful practices.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Ayele, for coming on Panorama. We do hope that the bill will be assented to very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We now move on to sports. Talking sport, Navy game opens in Uyo as Nigeria men and women beach volleyball teams prepare for World Championship qualifier. Gainde Sani is our guide.